For tank v tank combat, we just want as much hard attack as possible without completely forgetting about soft attack. You generally just want to go for TDs here since they offer a bunch of extra hard attack as opposed to just normal tanks. I will explain the tank variants more in a second, so stay tuned if you are curious about that. That being said, for a normal heavy TD design, you usually want to use the 3-man turret. It barely adds extra cost while giving quite a lot of extra breakthrough. For your cannon, on a heavy tank, you want the best heavy cannon. Usually heavy cannon 2, that is available. And once you finish your AT research, you want to go for the advanced high velocity cannon. That is the cannon that offers the most hard attack in the game and is really useful against opponents that do a bunch of tanks, like on Barb or on D-Day. You definitely want to have that one. For your secondary modules, you want to go for 3 small cannons, since they deliver an awesome amount of soft and hard attack, and radio free. This is because breakthrough is a crucial stat, especially if you don't fight under green air. The only country in MP that usually skips radio free and goes for 4 small cannons is France, because they usually only fight under extreme green air. For your suspension, in almost all cases, you just want to go for the torsion bar. It makes our terrible reliability slightly better. In general though, reliability doesn't matter too much. If you want to know more about that, go check out my last video, I explained it there a bit. For your armor, you should always choose riveted. The IC bonus is just huge, it's very important. The only exception to this is really if you do armor memes, which will be important in the tank v inf section in a second, on which you want to go for welded armor. Your engine should be the diesel engine if you expect to fight under green air, because then you have enough speed to not get overrun anyhow, and that really is the only point for speed. And gasoline if you don't expect to fight under green air, just because then you will need the speed, obviously. Your engine and armor clicks should always be maxed out. If possible, try to at least get 14 of both on your tank. Especially to war, you should really have that. It's really useful. We don't do this for the armor, but for the breakthrough that they offer us. The breakthrough is really important, and breakthrough in general is just an extremely crucial stat on your tanks. You want to aim for like 600 to 800 breakthrough if possible, even more. There's no upper limit. There technically is, but you definitely can go very high. So definitely try to aim as high as possible there. And for tank v tank combat, in general, heavy tanks are meta, but if you want to be a free thinker or you play in some older mods or version, medium tanks with improved high velo cannon can also be quite good as well. Especially if you often also struggle with terrain, or you don't add good support companies, or you want to experiment a bit, then medium tanks can also be very strong since they get much less penalties. Okay, let us now get to tank v inf combat. If you expect to fight against any infantry, it's always a good idea to build some howitzer medium tanks. They are by far the strongest tanks you can build in single player as well, since they're extremely cheap and efficient at clicking inf. In MP, they can be used to relentlessly click mass mob without caring too much about losses. Early on, you can just build them with howitzer 1s, or once you get the research, howitzer 2s. Instead of small cannons, you should use the heavy cannons here. They are cheaper, they don't make us lose reliability, and they have basically the same soft attack, which is all that matters to us here. You can also go for 1 machine gun and the best radio you have. Other than that, everything said in the previous section also applies here. Building some soft attack mediums can offer you another big benefit through an MIO trick that some countries, mainly Germany, can do. If you have a tank MIO exclusively for medium or light tanks, like the Daimler-Benz MIO in Germany, which is really strong, you can make it available to your heavy tanks but by getting your MIO in size 6 and applying the policy that gives cap to heavy tanks. Afterwards, all bonuses will apply to your heavies as well. Like literally all of them, all the production modifiers, the stat modifiers. So you can see how this is really big, I hope. And yeah, any tank that plans to fight against inf with AT needs an armor meme. That is just 1 high armor battalion in your tank. Usually it's just a normal heavy tank with welded armor, armor skirts, and sloped armor. Your support tanks are usually light tank recon for the 10% extra hard attack and for the breakthrough you can get for designing them. And your flame tank, which you mainly use to eliminate terrain. For both of them, the main rules in designing them are to get as much breakthrough as possible, while having them be at least as fast as the rest of your division. Extra ammunition storages are usually great for this, since they are really cheap, and radios, obviously, since they can offer the most breakthrough. Here you can also choose the breakthrough suspension, and depending on your tech and IC, even go for a petrol engine. Although this is usually not worth it, but in some very fringe cases, this can be worth it. If your tank is 4 kmh, for example, and you really have a shit ton of AC left. Then all of this does really depend on your situation in general, though. You really have to watch out. If you have to really play on budget, it can be worth it to even skip out on some of the breakthrough sometimes and just choose a one-man turret or something. You really have to adjust that for your situation. It's not that important that these tanks are maxed out, really. Your main line tanks are way more important. Your tanks should generally be 36 width, unless you fight in mountains. Then it should be less than 33 width. So you can fit more than one division in the combat. If you want to know more about combat width in general, just go check out my last video. If you expect to fight in a red area, your tank should have 2 motorized line AA and support AA. Note though that this is mutually exclusive with the armor memes, so you can't have both battalions in the same line. In general, you want to do this, by the way, to maximize your breakthrough. That is quite useful because you will usually be lacking breakthrough, especially on fronts like D-Day. You definitely want this. For your support companies, you usually want to have flame tanks, armored engineers, and field hospitals, so you can preserve your experience level and gain some extra HP. You should also always either have ranger or light tank in your unit. Light tanks are better whenever you are not fighting in mountains or snow, but once winter hits, or in case you are fighting in mountains, just exchange that temporarily for rangers. You get those rangers through the Mountaineer Doctrine, by the way. Then your last slot should be either AA, if fighting on a red or yellow area, or logistics, whatever suits your situation. Your tanks should be about half-half tank and either motorized, mech or Amtrak, depending on what you can research or afford. For the early game, you'll often need motorized. Even in good MP games, people use motorized in their howitzer tanks for quite a long time. In single player, you will be fine with keeping motorized in basically for the entire game, I suppose. Amtraks are good since they reduce the river penalty, which is usually quite a big problem in MP, and since they count as special forces, and therefore also get special force bonuses, which can mean that depending on your country, your tank can get 20 to 30% extra stats. In some multiplayer lobbies, Amtraks are banned, so be careful about that, or especially they are mostly banned on Barb, because if you do Amtraks on Barb, it's quite common that Russia dies really fast, way faster than they're supposed to, because they can't hold behind rivers and you in general just get way more stats, so be aware of that. But other than that, they are usually great, or it's usually a great idea to put them into your division. So now let's come to the tank variants. And principally, TDs are better than normal tanks in HOI4 MP, since hard attack is king. The other two are largely useless. SPGs take 3 combat width, and therefore don't really get more soft attack per combat width, if you do the math behind it. Although, as a slight benefit, they do cost significantly less because of that. Because with 3 combat width, you need quite a few less SPGs to fill out the division's combat width. But yeah, it's not really worth it, especially if you're playing in a multiplayer scenario. Don't do them. SPAA has a similar problem. It only takes up 2 combat width, but it has to compete with motorized AA. And just delivers less air attack than that per combat width. So motorized AA only costs 1 combat width, but gives similar air attack to 1 SPAA battalion. Yeah, which makes SPAA just significantly worse. Although it can be used as a funny armor meme, because it is also the cheapest tank battalion in the game, i.e. it uses the least amounts of tanks per battalion. But it's certainly not meta, but if you want to play around with it, have fun, I guess. Just another quick explanation of the Doctrine meta for tanks. I will make another videos on Doctrine specifically soon. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. Leave a comment if you're interested in that. I'm not sure if that is actually interesting enough. Okay, anyhow, the Doctrine meta for tanks is almost always to go GBP left, except if you also need to build infantry. Then Mobile Warfare left-right is better, since the extra orc is really useful for your infantry. But for pure tank stats, GBP left is by far the best Doctrine. Planning gives a bunch of extra stats and also breakthrough. All of that planning goes into breakthrough, which as said is super important for your tanks. And then also the other buffs GBP offers are just really good, like less supply consumption. That is just awesome. GBP right is in theory another great tank Doctrine that you could do. It gives a bunch of land knight attack. Yeah, so GBP is just king for your tanks. Yeah, you definitely want to do that. it's your go-to doctrine with almost all tank nations. So this pretty much concludes the video. If you have any questions or suggestions left, please leave it in the comments. I will answer to all of them, and see you another day.